Hello, everybody, and welcome to my DEBI project for EDU 131. My name is Christian Walker. I go by Chrissy, and for my DEBI project, I was assigned the topic of homelessness in families, specifically homelessness, of course, in early childhood education. So I have broken my presentation into a few different sections just to keep everything flowing nicely and sort of easier to understand. So other than the references, the four sections that I have broken everything down into is going to be the facts and the risk factors. So this will sort of just go over some of the statistics and the different things to keep in mind, because children who are experiencing homelessness tend to fall into very similar sort of struggles. So we're going to go over some of those things, and then we're going to go over things to keep in mind just as an educator, things you might want to think about if you do have a child who's experiencing homelessness. And then we'll move into community support, which is going to cover some different resources for homeless families, and sort of guide you on what those resources are and how we can use them to help. And then lastly, we will be getting into how to cultivate a feeling of value, so that all of the children in our class feel welcome and accepted and not ashamed, no matter what their background is. Okay. So as an introduction, we for an introduction, I just said, homelessness is an increasing concern that impacts countless families, including young children who depend on stability and support for their education and well-being. Teachers play a key role in assisting families experiencing homelessness, often acting as a vital link to essential resources. By understanding the challenges these families face, such as limited access to basic necessities, frequent school changes, and emotional hardships, educators can provide meaningful support and foster an inclusive, supporting learning environment for all children. All right, and then we get into the facts. So this is going to be sort of who's affected by homelessness. We'll get into some statistics and then the risk factors that these children are facing. So to start, I have a bar chart that sort of represents student homelessness by state for the 2021-2022 school year. And approximately 1.3 million families in the U.S. are experiencing homelessness each and every single year. You can tell on the bar chart that, of course, there are some states that have way higher statistics than others. For example, you can see that big, super high purple bar chart. Bar is for California. But of course, California is such a dense population that, of course, they are going to have a higher homelessness population than Wisconsin, right? So keep those things in mind as you do look over the bar chart. However, I do want to point out that on that graph, North Carolina was reported to have 28,631 homeless families during the 2021-2022 school year. And then during the 2023-24 public school year, North Carolina schools reported 37,197 students experiencing homelessness. And that is an increase of almost 8,000 students, or over 8,000 students, actually. So this is a growing concern, especially as we sort of face housing instability in today's society and economy. This is going to become a concern that's only going to grow, really. So it's really important to keep in mind and sort of try to stay up to date on these statistics. All right. And then I get into a little bit of homelessness by race. This is reported by Orange County. And the reason that I included this is because I do think it's important to sort of see that there are some sort of trends when it comes to homelessness. Of course, nobody is exempt to homelessness. Anybody can experience homelessness, but knowing what groups are suffering more from it is helpful for you as an educator, because you can sort of look for that, right? So the really important thing that I want to point out here is that that Black children do take up almost 60% of the homelessness, of the homeless children in Orange County. And then that's followed by the white children and then the American Indian and Hispanic children. All right, as we move on to risk factors, there are a few things to sort of keep in mind as an educator. The first of which being that 67% of young children that live in a low-income family have a single parent, and that's compared to 26% of high-income families only have one parent. So it's a pretty big difference there, and you can sort of see that low-income families tend or have more of a likelihood to be from a single parent family. So that's also something to keep in mind. 30% of children with immigrant parents live in poverty compared to 22% of those that are have parents that are US born. Homeless children face higher school mobility than their housed peers. This means that homeless children tend to change schools more frequently than housed peers. Homeless students experience greater school mobility, of course, like we just talked about, and that causes an interruption to their education, and it is linked with dropping out of school. And then homelessness is associated with developmental delays, and homeless students are also more likely to experience chronic absenteeism than their housed peers. All right, and then we're going to get into supporting homeless youth. So these are going to be important things for you to keep in mind, and sort of some of the frustrations that homeless children do experience every day. So first of which being children experiencing homelessness are more likely to have less educated parents, and as many as 97% of homeless children are not participating in early childhood education programs. So this means that when they do come to public school, they aren't prepared the way that children who did participate in an early childhood education program would be. All right, and frustration. So if you are teaching a child who is experiencing homelessness, sort of keep these 7 things in mind, because these are sort of things that usually go on in homeless children's head, and things that make them feel frustrated about their situation. So that is going to be that they're ashamed of where they live. They get teased by other children about their homelessness, their inabilities, their hygiene, a plethora of things. They oftentimes feel misunderstood by their parents. They have a difficulty adjusting to their new school, and they are magnified by the situation. And they also oftentimes don't have a quiet place to do homework, or even just like a quiet place for themselves. And then, of course, their developmental delay, if they have it, will augment feelings of failure. So it's important to sort of keep these things in mind and look out for them so that we can combat them as we need to. All right, and then community support. This is where we're going to get into resources that you can share with homeless families or with families if they are experiencing homelessness. So the first one is going to be the McKinney-Vento Act. So this act sort of just provides a little bit of support and coverage for those children who are experiencing homelessness to try to keep their education as stable as possible. So according to the McKinney-Vento Act, children are considered homeless if they lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. So if they don't sleep in the same house every single night, then they are considered homeless. Children and youth who are sharing housing due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or similar reasons. So that's going to be like if they're living in a group home or something like that. And then also children who are living in motels, hotels, trailer parks, shelters, that sort of thing. Those children will be considered homeless as well. And then the McKinney-Vento Act ensures that a few different things. It ensures that homeless students have the right to remain at their school of origin. This is very important because then it sort of creates that school structure. They don't have to move from school to school to school. And then it also requires that transportation is provided. So this sort of goes hand in hand with the remaining at their school of origin. So if a child lives 30 minutes away from their home school now and they're homeless, under the McKinney-Vento Act, they are required to have that we provide transportation for them to school. Homeless students must have access to all programs and services that they are eligible for. And then unaccompanied youth are given special protections. For example, they can enroll in their school of origin without having a proof of guardianship. And then the other thing that I wanted to sort of talk about or touch on is the North Carolina's action plan for early childhood education homelessness support system. So this is something that's actually currently still in the works. It's been something that North Carolina has been talking about for about 3 years now, but it is basically a plan that presents a united vision and defines key benchmarks for impact. And they are hoping to start this by 2025 this year. Yay! And hopefully it will promote shared accountability, and it will sort of just set benchmarks and regulations for homelessness. The plan will ensure that the homeless children are raised healthy, raised in a safe and nurturing environment, and that they are supported in their education so that they can be successful. And it outlines a bold vision aimed at enhancing outcomes in children's health, safety, and overall well-being. So they're just trying to find funding and provide resources for children that are experiencing homelessness so that we can make sure that they're always getting the same education that housed children are getting. So I think as an educator, especially in North Carolina, it's going to be very important for us to sort of keep up with this and check in to see what updates are being made so that we can be educated and support those children, of course. All right, and then last but not least is going to be community support. So these are going to be a few different ways to cultivate a feeling of value inside of your classroom. So the first of which is going to be building a strong relationship and trust. So of course, building relationships with children is important for so many reasons, but especially when they're homeless, you want to be able to provide them that safe space because they might not feel safe at home. So we really want to make sure that we can build that trust with those students so that they at least feel safe and they can talk to us about what's going on and we can help them. And then we're going to want to build awareness about the McKinney-Vento Act, of course, because a lot of parents don't know about it. So when we do face a child who's experiencing homelessness, we want to make sure that we're prepared to give them the information that they need. And then we want to help strengthen data collection because, of course, it's so much easier to help fight against homelessness if we have accurate numbers and data. So as an educator, it is our responsibility to sort of help in that data collection as needed, or if we're asked to, or anything like that. That's sort of very important for us so that we can stay up to date and provide effective support for children. And then we're also going to want to be sensitive and understanding because, again, there's a lot of like emotional turmoil going on with children who are homeless. So we want to make sure that we're being very sensitive and giving them grace with a lot of things. For example, if they have bad hygiene, we don't want to call that out, of course. If they are absent for multiple days in a row, maybe let's give them a break because they probably maybe didn't have a way to get to school, and that sort of thing. And then the last is going to be to ensure that classroom policies are fair to homeless students. So again, this is going to sort of just work hand in hand with being sensitive and understanding. Of course, classrooms have to have rules and regulations. However, it's important for us to keep an open mind and sort of work around those as needed for children that are homeless, because it's not fair for us to, give them a homework assignment where they need to use a computer. And of course, they don't have a computer if they're homeless, right? So we want to sort of keep those sort of things in mind as we continue to educate the youth. All right. And then the last thing that I have, of course, is my references. So I used a lot of different resources for this project. And these are all my references for it. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned a lot, and I am so excited to learn from all of you.